Good evening. I will now call to order the City Council meeting of Tuesday, November 20th, 2018. Madam Clerk, will you please provide the roll call?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, we have Councilmember Wyatt, Councilmember Tomlinson, and yourself as the mayor. And absent this evening is Councilmember Lewis and Mayor Pro Tem Mueller. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, is there a need for a closed session?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. First, we have a conference with legal counsel as a result of anticipated litigation due to the significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2. We have one case to discuss. Next, we have a conference with labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The agency designated representative is the city manager, and we'll be discussing unrepresented and represented employees involving all positions in the city. Finally, we have a conference with legal counsel as a result of existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.91. We have two cases to discuss. First is the City versus New Method Wellness, Inc. Et al., Orange County Superior Court, case number 302-017-009-04169. Next, we have the City of Dana Point versus Sunshine Group, also known as the Seaside Inn case. Orange County Superior Court, case number 302-017-009-15900. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. We will now be in recess to closed session until 6 p.m.
Do we need a mayor, temporary mayor pro tem? Because I nominate Paul Wyatt to be temporary mayor pro tem for the night, in case something happens to Rick.
Evening. Welcome to the Dana Point City Council meeting of November 20th, 2018. We'll now reconvene our meeting. We'll begin tonight with our Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Paul Wyatt.
Please stand, place your right hand over your heart, face the flag, and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please remain standing for the invocation this evening. This evening, the invocation will be provided by Rabbi Eli Gorovich from Shabbat of Dana Point.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, City Council members, we as human beings and as American citizens have much to be thankful for. Our calendar is dotted with days for us to express our gratitude. Veterans Day, Memorial Day, Labor Day, and so on and so forth. And then there's Thanksgiving, the day when we thank God for all the above and for all else He does for us. There's no doubt that this great country's historically unprecedented success is due to the fact that its founding fathers recognized that there is a supreme being who provides and cares for every creature. These strong morals upon which our republic was founded express themselves to this day in American life. Looking at the dollar bill and seeing "In God We Trust" is a reassurance that as a people, we still recognize and acknowledge the source of all our achievements. With this in mind, let us pray. Almighty God, we stand before you in prayer. Look favorably upon the mayor and the honorable members of the City Council of our great city of Dana Point. We beseech you, Almighty and merciful God, to extend your grace to each and every member of this august body and bestow upon them the joy of life, good health, and prosperity. Bless these distinguished individuals who have been chosen to make laws and decisions for the citizens of our city. Grant these public servants wisdom and understanding in their noble pursuit of justice and equality. Give them guidance so that they will always be conscious of your presence and will strive to enact laws with honesty and integrity in accordance with your will. May they have the wisdom to turn adversity into opportunity and to transform the hard challenges we face today into the seeds from which will sprout the growth of tomorrow. May our city serve as a beacon of light for people of all faiths and walks of life. May Dana Point help achieve the goals so powerfully stated in our Pledge of Allegiance, so that America is truly one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now let us say Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay. We have no presentations or proclamations tonight, which brings us to the reading of ordinance titles. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinance titles to be read tonight?
No, Mr. Mayor, we do not. Thank you.
Very well, thank you. That brings us to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine, and all will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Madam Clerk, are there any items to be removed by the public?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. City Manager, are there any items to be removed by staff?
No, sir.
Are there any items to be removed by the council?
No, Mr. Mayor. I don't have an item necessarily to remove, but item number 2, I need to abstain on that. Be recorded as abstain, but because I was not here for that meeting, and therefore.
Very well. The abstention will be noted from item 2. With that, I will move the recommended actions for the balance of the consent calendar.
I will second that motion.
Very well. Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Very well. Okay, that brings us to public comments. There will be a 3-minute time limit per person, an overall time limit of 30 minutes for this public comments portion of the agenda. At the mayor's discretion, the balance of public comments will be heard after the new business portion of the agenda. All comments are to be directed to the City Council and shall not consist of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional, courteous decorum during their comments. State law prohibits the City Council from taking action on a specific item unless it appears on the posted agenda. The City Clerk will distribute any handouts you may have, and if you would, please state your name and your city of residence for the record when you speak. And Madam Clerk, I see we do have some public comments tonight. We have 3 speakers. Our first speaker is Brad Fieldhouse, followed by George Miller and Wayne Yost. Mr. Fieldhouse.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and a special shout out to Chief Sheenan. Sheenan, we work together in Stanton. It's a pleasure to see you again. My name is Brad Fieldhouse. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit here in Orange County called CityNet. And I'm here to talk about this an advanced heads up to the 2019 homeless point in time count countywide. It's happening on January 23, 24, and 25 this year. CityNet's a nonprofit that does, we're a professional street outreach organization. We work cross county in over half the cities, as well as done some high profile projects such as the flood control clear out and a number of other projects like that. And been able to see over 3,000 people street exit and get into the continuum of care system. So it does work. In all the cities in which we work, in every context, including the flood control channel, we do a census, which is a by name count of individuals, and the county has brought that new methodology to the point in time count that's going to be happening in this next year. And we're going to be the lead agency, working with a lot of different agencies to pull that off. U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development provides around $23 million annually to Orange County for housing and homeless services, and HUD mandates that this count of homeless neighbors happens every other year. And the next count will happen over January 23, 24, and 25. Using a little different methodology this year, we're actually going to be doing everything via technology. All the interviews will be conducted via cell phones using the ArcGIS technology, and we are going to every single city. So there will be teams and counts. We've been working with your law enforcement department to work some maps, and so we are going to be into every single city. There will be teams in every single city doing maps and assessments along those lines. We're going to need hundreds of volunteers. So this is an advance invitation. There still is room available in Dana Point to sort of sign up and get involved locally. If you sign up at Everyone Counts OC, and I have a little flyer that I'll leave with you, you will be able to, on a first come first service basis, we'll try and orientate that. We'll actually have you counting in your city. So that can be signed up today. We're looking lots of different volunteer roles. The website to sign up is Everyone Counts OC, and over the 3 days, on the first day of the count, we're making a big push to essentially try and get out, and we will be in every city on that day. We're counting both in the morning and in the evening. So traditionally, the count is done for a couple hours on a Saturday. We're actually doing it over 3 days. We're going out early in the morning and late in the evening. And we would love to have strong representation from volunteers and leaders in this community. If you're willing to come, go ahead, go to everyonecounts.org and sign up. We look forward to a great effort counting really important members of our community that do not have a home tonight. I'll leave these here.
Yes, please give them to the clerk.
Great. Have a great day.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Yep.
Our next speaker tonight is George Miller.
Mr. Mayor, council members, city manager, my name is George Miller, and I'm a resident of Dana Point. I'm here this evening to request action by the city council for something I believe should have been adopted and in place far in the past. My request is that the words "In God We Trust" be adopted by the city council and placed in a prominent location in this council chambers. These 4 words, "In God We Trust," are the official motto of the United States since 1956 and reaffirmed by Congress in 2011. These words first appeared on coins in 1864, and in 1955, President Eisenhower required that they be on all currency and coins in the United States. These words appear in the House of Representatives, their chamber, over the Tribune. These words also appear in the 4th stanza of the Star-Spangled Banner, our national anthem. And many buildings and monuments throughout the country have these words emblazoned across their edifices. There are movements across the country recognizing and in some instances reinstalling the basics of the United States. 11 states also have these words inscribed on their license plates. If the city council adopts these words, Dana Point would be the 21st city of the 34 in Orange County to display the motto of the United States. The Orange County Board of Education already has this in place beneath their seal. The legality of the words "In God We Trust" has been frequently challenged through the courts and has withstood these challenges. The latest court ruling just this year found these words in our currency is not a religious endorsement. In 2015, a federal court rejected the notion that these 4 words violated the Constitution, and the Supreme Court, when it was referred to them, refused to hear the case. I'm requesting and urging the council to take action to place this item on the agenda and adopt the words "In God We Trust." In my opinion, it is a patriotic thing to do, and in these times, I think it is a wise thing to do. I thank council for their consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Our next speaker is Wayne Yost.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, city staff, members of our community. My name is Wayne Yost, 36-year resident of our wonderful city. I also support Mr. Miller's petition. I think it's a great idea. First of all, I wanted to commend the city, especially our Recreation Department, for this past Veterans Day, November 11th. They did an outstanding job in setting up our Veterans Memorial on Strands Vista Park. We had a great turnout. We had about 14 World War II veterans, 34 Korean War veterans, and the balance of the hundreds of people there were from the Vietnam era and the current wars in the Middle East. Everybody was quite pleased with the ceremony, and once again, I want to commend the city on their great support in not only hosting that event, but also maintaining our wonderful memorial. In addition, I wanted to remind everybody that on Saturday, December 1st, the city of Dana Point, in conjunction with our Recreation Department, will be hosting our Winterfest at La Plaza Park, which is located just across from Hennessy's Tavern, downtown Dana Point. It's a wonderful family event. We typically have thousands of people coming through there. Santa will be there, sleigh rides, horse rides. I believe an ice skating rink will be set up this year, and our VFW Post 9934 will be hosting a barbecue. So extend that invitation. And lastly, I wanted to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Madam Clerk, do we have any other public comments?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, with that, I will close public comments. And that brings us to the council comments portion of the agenda. And I will go around, start with Councilman Tomlinson.
I have no comments, but I'd like to report a meeting of the short-term rental committee meeting that I attended this morning here at the city.
Thank you. Councilman Wyatt.
I have turned in my list of meetings to the city clerk. Additionally, though, I would like to just follow up on a report I made at the last meeting I was in. I reported that Mercy House had submitted a homeless emergency assistance emergency program called HEAP grant application for street outreach services for Dana Point and 6 of our neighboring cities, essentially the entire South Orange County planning area. So I'm happy to announce that $638,988 of the requested $836,719 of this grant application was recommended for funding. It was the largest service space project funded and will be included in the application by the county for state funding. The reduced funding does take away some of our funding for rapid rehousing and diversion assistance, but it will support our street outreach for the cities working together to do that. What I really wanted to bring it up, besides just letting people know, is we owe a special thanks to Larry Haynes and Stephanie Ogus of Mercy House, who really wrote the grant application and authoring it and submitting it. But we also owe another thank you to Dana Point Economic Development Manager Kelly Renders for getting the agreement of our neighboring cities to all support this, which was not an easy task. We've tried to get them to work together before. So with her and nudging, coaxing, and I don't know, maybe threats, but I'm not sure. Anyway, she did it, and I really want to thank her and appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I have nothing to report, but I have turned in my list of meetings to the clerk. Which brings us now to the public hearings portion of the agenda. Item 16 is the Dana Point Tourism Business Improvement District Annual Renewal for 2019. Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Speaking of Ms. Renders, Economic Development Manager Kelly Renders has a brief staff report on this second item for the T-bid renewal for 2019.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. We're at the second step of the T-bid renewal process. We're at the public hearing. The 4 entities that will be assessed have been notified, and we have not received any correspondence back from them. So tonight we proceed forward with a public hearing, and I know that there are representatives here from Visit Dana Point as well. Should the council have any further questions on this, we're here to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, I would like to introduce Johnny Westham, the Executive Director of Visit Dana Point, and Quentin Roberts, the Director of Sales for Visit Dana Point. Quentin's the new face in town, and we're pleased that they're here this evening.
Thank you. Welcome, gentlemen. So at this point, I'll open it up to questions from council, if you have any, before I open the public hearing. Do I see any questions? No.
Actually, one that I think our 2 representatives here could answer. So they're set up a couple of reserve programs this time. I think those are new to the operating and the way the funding works for it. So it would be useful to get their perspective on how they see this operating in the future, and the purpose of those reserves and usage, and how we work with them to make sure we support them in their financial planning.
Good evening. Again, my name is Johnny Westham. I'm the Executive Director of Visit Dana Point. Been in the role since January 2nd of this year, and I feel like we've made some milestones with our organization. And with me is Quentin Roberts, who's our director of sales, the second employee for Visit Dana Point. So as we keep half joking, we've doubled in size this year, and we look forward to adding another staff member with your blessing of this budget for next year. So the purpose of the reserve accounts was set up so that we could transition some of the funds that were held at the city to Visit Dana Point as we become more of an organization, an established organization where we've set up a brick and mortar presence in the city. We've hired staff, and we now have a much stronger presence. We feel that having access to those funds with board approval to use for expenses would allow us to be a little bit more fluid in our business operations. So, for example, we did set up 3 new reserve accounts, and again, with the blessing and the transfer of funds, we'll be able to actually fund those accounts. But one is a catastrophic account, which coming from Sonoma last year, the first wildfire that set a record. Now we're on to the 5th fire that set a record. We were able to use funds that were set up for catastrophes to fund different promotions and continue to do business operations as business usual. So, for example, if anything were to happen in Dana Point where we'd have to pull funds because of low occupancy and low income from the T-bid, we'd be able to continue business operations so that we could minimize that impact of the catastrophe. Strategic operations are unforeseen new opportunities that will present themselves throughout the year. For example, the United States Travel Association, which is a trade association for the travel industry and for destination marketing organizations, DMOs like Visit Dana Point, hosts a large convention every year. It's the largest in the world, called IPW, or International Powwow. And that's the largest trade show where, it's the largest trade show in the world where international markets come into U.S. soil, and we're able to supply them with information on our destinations so that they can package and promote that to their international guests and hopefully, impact Dana Point or whatever destination I'm talking to. Anaheim is sponsoring that this year, and they'll be hosting them in Anaheim in June of 2019. So I met with Visit Anaheim on Wednesday, and they presented us a unique opportunity to host buyers and media in Dana Point for 2 full days prior to the event, right? Which is a huge opportunity for us that we get, that many new eyeballs from the media standpoint and from the buyer standpoint to influence them more on Dana Point. That's a $40,000 package that we had not budgeted for originally. So it's those type of unique opportunities that will present themselves throughout the year that we'll be able to take advantage of without having to request additional funds from the city or to supply. There is a rigorous approval process where the board, with a majority vote, which is 3 out of 4 board members, will have to approve the request in order for that to be funded, and then we'll have checks and balances following.
In terms of business operations, your like us at the city, your flow of monies in aren't always level month by month. So sometimes as you look at how to do it, my only ask on it as you start to put it all together is when you have the reserves and they get used, which is the purpose, right? They need to be replenished. So the plan that not only determines how you release the money from them to use, but there should be with it as you document out your overall financial controls, the plan of how they get replenished.
Yes, sir.
That's all I have.
Great, thank you.
All right, any questions in light of that? Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Can I have a seat?
Wonderful, thank you.
With that, I will open the public hearing on this item. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
No, Mr. Mayor.
With that, I will close the public hearing on this item and bring it back to council. And I'm looking at the recommended action. I see number 1 is conduct a public hearing, which we just did. So I'm going to move number 2 and number 3 on the recommended action.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. With a motion and a second, do we have any discussion? No discussion? Okay. Actually, before we vote, I just want to ask very quickly, Mr. City Manager, if since we are conducting oversight of the T-bid, if you could give us a little bit of detail what the city's been doing and how we got to this point with what we're doing tonight.
Yes, sir. And with respect to the reserves policy, I think Mr. Killebrew has been working with this organization for the past couple of years, even prior to Johnny's arrival, to encourage a reserves policy. And we're gratified that with Johnny's arrival, we finally have one that's been established and voted and approved by that board. Kelly does attend all of the board meetings. I have been attending most of them, and so we have regular and sustained communication both with Johnny on an individual basis, but also with their board and attending all their board meetings, reviewing their budgets, reviewing the operating plan. We've been working with their new team that's come on board to do new branding and advertising for them. They've consulted with the city pretty extensively, and we're pretty pleased with their efforts thus far.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, are there any questions in light of that? No? Okay, thank you. Well, we have a motion and a second on the floor, so I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, that brings us to the unfinished business. We have no unfinished business. There's no new business,
Mr. Mayor.
which brings us to the staff reports.
Oh, Mr. Mayor.
Oh,
I think two citizens walked in after. I don't know if they have a speaker slip or if they wanted to say something. I'm just not sure you wanted to acknowledge them. No? Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Sorry for the interruption.
That's okay. All right, we are on to staff reports. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I am grateful to Mr. Yost for giving us a little shout out about Winterfest on Saturday, December 1st. Certainly want to encourage the community to come out and join us for that fun activity. In addition, on the following Monday, December 3rd, the city has recreated the historic tree lighting that used to occur in the Estrella median and now occurs in a much safer location in Pines Park. And we certainly encourage the public to join us for that. And then that following weekend and the weekend after are the 2 weekends of the Dana Point Holiday Boat Parade, which is always a great time. I was in the harbor yesterday and saw, actually over the weekend, and saw the decorations in the harbor are almost all fully in place now. So it's going to be another great holiday season in Dana Point. We hope to see everyone out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. City Attorney, anything to report?
Yes, I wanted to update the council on a recent case that came out under the California Voting Rights Act. We've had a lot of discussion about that here in our chambers. I thought you'd be interested in knowing that the city of Santa Monica took on a challenge to the CVRA and this whole districting kind of concept. So they went through a trial and they lost and ended up incurring about $6 million in legal fees in the process. So thought it was something that the council would be interested in being aware of. Concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to the adjournment. The next regular meeting of the City Council will be December 4th, 2018 at 5 p.m. right here in the City Council chambers. With that, we are adjourned.